Hello, everybody. So happy to see all these faces here. We've just started hosting these meditation and ceremonies on Thursday mornings and classes on Saturday nights. And folks are saying that they're really enjoying them. And it's a nice way to feel like they're connecting with community, even if we're doing it through this strange digital medium, which of course is not at the heart of tea. At the heart of tea is really intimacy and connection. And, for example, in a Japanese tea house or a Japanese garden, or you find a lot of tiny Japanese objects, like origami. There's this saying that privacy is not a matter of vicinity, but design. And so, we created this tea house to foster real intimacy and for people to be close to each other and make eye contact and connect with one another. And that was a year ago. We were supposed to open a year ago this week, and we still haven't opened. So at least we are using the space to connect with all of you in some way. And what people have said subsequent to these sessions is that there's a feeling of warmth and a feeling of connection that tea is the great facilitator of. One of the names for tea is the great connector, that's happening despite our not being physically together. So I hope that you have that experience. I hope you're still feeling that this is a valuable and meaningful way of connecting with one another. And because of in the morning sessions, it's really more intended to facilitate meditation. And sitting in meditation in Sangha, the Buddhist term, or in community with others is a far more powerful practice, not only because it helps create accountability and support, to know that others are doing it with you, but also there's some unspoken, intangible, imperceptible quality that happens when people meditate together. The meditations tend to be deeper, more connected. Oftentimes folks also have similar insights, and I think that's from tapping into whatever you want to call it. We'll call it the field. You could say a field of presence that comes through meditation together. So I'm going to speak a little less. Last week, I talked quite a bit about the side handle tea bowl ceremony and the idea of 3 bowls in the morning. I'm certainly open to opening up that conversation, but I first want to have 3 bowls together, and then we'll do a guided meditation. I'll say a little bit about the meditation beforehand. But then I'll open it up to conversation, either for all of you to share, or if you have any specific questions that are tea or meditation related. Again, these morning sits is less about information and knowledge and accumulating information. It's more about putting things down. So there's a wonderful saying in Taoism, which is, a man of the world puts something on every day, and a man or a woman of the Tao takes something off. So in tea, if it's purely linear, conceptual, pragmatic, practical study of tea and the qualities of tea, you could do that for 10 lifetimes. If all you do is study tea in that way, we say you become a connoisseur, and oftentimes connoisseurs become snobs. It lends itself to arrogance. Whereas there's another side of tea, a long tradition of tea, that is about facilitating quietude, deeper communion with nature, with oneself, and also meditation. Meditation and tea have always gone closely together. A big part of the reason for that is that tea is what we call a Shen tonic in herbalism, in that it quiets the mind and it opens the heart and it helps to move stagnant qi through the body. So it really opens you up and it quiets the mind. So it naturally is a gateway into deeper meditation. Um, some teas will facilitate meditation whether or not you want them to. So something we often notice is that, especially with aged shengpurs, some shopur, some yencha oolongs, certain teas really facilitate a strong, I'd even say like a psychosomatic influence, and can drop you into different states of meditation and really help facilitate a deepening in one's practice and cultivation of presence or mindfulness, whatever word you want to use there. So I'm going to stop talking. And I'd like to, for us all to enjoy 3 bowls together in silence. I'm this morning just drinking leaves in a bowl because it's something that I do at least once or twice a week. It helps me return back to the core of the practice, which is just leaves and water and fire. There's something about the simplicity I really love and enjoy. And the last thing I'll say, I'm always talking too much, is that I'm starting to enjoy, it's starting to warm up and the snow's melting where we live up in the mountains. So you can really feel summer or spring rather, starting to emerge. And maybe in the class on Saturday night, I'll talk more about that transitional period in the seasons and its significance from a Taoist perspective and why it's important as it relates to tea. But I'm finding myself wanting to drink more teas that are opening, more ethereal, more moving, teas that are more what we call wood fire element. So they move the liver chi, because the liver is the season of spring is associated with the liver, with the eyes, stimulating the eyes, and the work of willpower. There's different qualities of the spring as that yang energy rises and the heat rises and it starts to melt the snow. I'm drinking a tea called Ruby Red, which I like because it's a blend of a hybrid of 2 different types of trees. One is a Burmese blend, Burmese Assamica hybrid. So it's from Burma. And the other one is a native Taiwanese tree. And they put these 2 trees together, splice them, hybridize them, and produce a tea called Ruby 18 or Ruby Red. And it's a Taiwanese red tea. And what I love about it is that unlike a lot of the Assam or the Burmese trees, it doesn't have as much of that really maltiness that you find in those red teas. Instead, it's got almost like a bubblegum sweetness that you find in a lot of Taiwanese oolongs. So it's got these sweet qualities, it's uplifting, it's warming, it's moving, but it's not too stimulating. So I find it to be a really wonderful tea. If you're wanting a red tea that's quite gentle and not too stimulating. It's also nice because the leaves are big. It's what's called a dahlia, which is big leaf in Chinese. And they're these big leaves that are really nice to drink leaves in a bowl because they sink down to the bottom because of the weight of the leaves. So again, on Saturday, I'll get kind of more technical, but for today, less talk, more meditation. So I don't know what your setup is where you are at home, but hopefully you have at least a bowl and some tea leaves. And you can either follow along or follow your own practice, whatever works best for you. And then I'll say a little bit about the meditation we're going to do today. And then afterwards, we'll open it up. So thank you so much for coming, everyone. I know it's a little bit early. For those of you on the West Coast, it's quite early. Well, maybe it's quite early, maybe it's not. But we really appreciate your attending these because it's really just an offering to share tea with all of you and some of the practices of tea, and also to open up connections in community, which I'll say a little more about at the very end, because we're creating a calendar for other people to host events and share with one another. So. Am I muted, Jake? right. So that simple practice of 3 bowls in silence, or sometimes I listen to music, is really the core and the essence of developing a really deep tea practice. You know, we have the saying in our tradition, which is mastery is just mastery of the basics. Coming back to 3 bowls in the morning as a daily practice is incredibly transformative if you actually take it seriously. And what I mean by that is there is a temptation, because we are so bombarded with information and stimulation all the time, to be on one's phone, to be doing other things in the morning during this practice. And of course, explore as you wish. But my invitation is to see what happens if you just create sacred boundaries around this time and space. You know, Joseph Campbell talks a lot about this in his books, but also in those wonderful interviews with Bill Moyers, where he talks about myth throughout history and all the different myths around the world. And he says how it all relates at its most basic element to those of us living our lives in the modern world is creating some part of your house or some part of your life that is a space to allow in a dimension of the sacred. Even if for you the sacred, it doesn't need to be supernatural. If that doesn't work for you, it can just mean a space to acknowledge the preciousness of the moment of your life and of this experience here and now. So the leaves in a bowl practice, or with a side handle, or even gung fu, having 3 to 5 cups is really a 20-minute practice. And so creating the space for that is really incredible, because it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I've drank tea every morning now for 20 years. I mean, for the last 12 years, really very consistently. And prior to that, very regularly. And like this morning, for example, rather than doing something else, reading a book, which is okay, but I haven't brewed ruby red, this particular tea, leaves in a bowl in a long time. And I'm noticing that the color of the leaves, which I don't know if you can see them here, but it's this very particular, very vibrant, almost like mahogany red color, the leaves themselves. And in my mind, I've drank this tea hundreds of times. And ruby red has always been because of the color of the liquor to me. This is the first time I'm really acknowledging the richness and how unique this particular color is in the leaves, which I think is probably where it actually gets its name. And I've read a lot about Taiwanese teas, but I've never come across that. So, you know, when we just create the space for it, you start to notice things in the moment that are really meaningful. It's such a wonderful way to start one's day. The other thing I just want to say about the practice of 3 bowls or 3 cups in the morning is that when the mind goes to a place of boredom, which may or may not be an issue for you, the invitation is to really go into the sensations in the body, go into the experience that one is having in the body, in order to develop a relationship to what we call cha chi, which is the chi, the energy, the prana, whatever you want to call it, or just the way that the tea makes you feel. In order to really access that and to get into the subtle layers of tea and understand how we use it in an alchemical way. And when I say alchemical, I don't mean something particularly esoteric. What I mean is developing a relationship to really understanding how different teas influence your unique constitution, and therefore learning how to use teas medicinally. So on certain days or certain times of the year, knowing what teas to use, how to use them, how to brew them, whether it's very strong and concentrated in small amounts or drinking big bowls of tea, what types of tea are brewed in what ways. The first way to really learn that is to go to the tea. And in order to go to the tea, you have to go to your body. So when you drink the 3 cups, you can really observe the shifts in the sensations in the body and the movement of energy throughout the body. How is it affecting your emotional being? How is it affecting your thinking? Some teas, like for example, I had the great privilege once of drinking 120-year-old pu'er tea. I think it transcends any real classification, but it was the oldest tea I've drank. It's been aged for 120 years. And for a couple hours after that, I literally could not form sentences. Not in like I felt dumb. It was that I was so deeply in my body and in such a deep space that the idea of talking about everyday experiences or chit-chatting felt very foreign. It felt like you're not actually honoring the depth of the tea you just drank by just chit-chatting about things. Different teas, especially from very old trees. I mean, imagine a tree on the side of a mountain for 1,000 years or 800 years, gathering bird song, sun, stars, rain, all the fungi and the lichen, all the microbes and the trace minerals down in the soil, the wind, the 4 seasons and the changes. Many of the high altitude gardens are bathed in clouds. All of those elements, right? Wood, fire, earth, metal, water, and the change of all the seasons. The trees are gathering all of the chi from all of those fundamental elements. They're gathering it and then they're concentrating it in the leaves. So we say the leaf is the tree's expression of its relationship to the environment, or what we call terroir, right? These tea trees, if for 800 years you sat on the side of a mountain and you gathered elemental energy and then you concentrated it in the leaves, and then we put those leaves to sleep through the processing, we kind of preserve them, and then we bring them back to life with water and fire. That sounds a whole lot like descriptions of alchemical work in terms of our internal work, both in the European tradition, but also in the Taoist tradition. That work is a process of transformation, and not just transformation, but refinement. It's refining one's energy, refining the psyche, refining one's weaknesses or shortcomings, and transforming them into their virtues. Now you might say, well, what does that have to do with tea? It has everything to do with tea, because this process of refinement is at the heart of what a tea tree is doing. It's refining and condensing chi from the environment and from the changing climate and from the seasons, and it's transforming it over time. And then we have a symbiotic relationship with tea trees. A lot like little bonsai trees, tea trees actually grow better. They're more vital, fecund, full, the canopy of the tree, the depth of the roots, if they are trimmed, if they're tended to responsibly. So if you overharvest the tree and you do it 10 or 12 times a year, those trees don't live for a really long time, or 20 times a year. Whereas if you harvest just a couple times a year and you treat the trees with reverence, then they actually will grow better and for longer. So, and that's the same with like bonsai trees, and there are other things in nature that we have such a profound symbiotic relationship with. When we relate to tea in this way, it is extraordinary plant medicine. It's the most benign. You know, other plant medicines can really yank open your psychic system, and they can be emotionally draining. Most significantly, from a Chinese medicine perspective, they drain the kidney jing, which I'm not going to go into too much, but your Jing is what controls the whole aging process. And in all the longevity practices, so for not just for living a long time, but having a lot of strength and vitality and health into one's old age, it's about conserving and then growing the Jing, the kidney Jing essence is what we say. Whereas if you overexpend the Jing, then the aging process speeds up. So the last thing I want to say about this is developing a relationship with tea, starting to learn the language that these trees speak. What we say, the sutras are written in the veins of the leaf. The first place to go is to the experience in the body. It's hard to do that if you're distracted by other things. If you can drink 3 cups and really do it in quietude, when the mind gets bored, go to the experience you're having in your body. So this ruby red, this season's harvest is quite, I am finding the qi quite strong. But the way it moves through the body is unique. And last season's harvest of this exact same tea might be very different. And that has to do with the relationship that those trees have to the environment. So maybe they got a lot of sun, a lot of yang energy, a lot of dryness, and it forced the trees to produce more leaves, and there are more sugars maybe in the leaves. The point here is that the climate and the environment comes through the trees into our bodies, and then we have a relationship to it. By observing what happens in that whole process is what it means to speak the language, to hear the language of the trees, and to start to communicate with tea in a direct way, not by reading a description in a book or even traveling to the place and hearing a farmer talk about that tea. It's about developing a direct relationship. In Zen Buddhism, there's a very strong emphasis on direct experience. Hearing about an experience, talking about an experience, even writing about or reflecting back on an experience is not the same thing as the direct experience itself. And what we are seeking is the direct experience of presence, of living reality. And the more we cultivate that space, the more we become established in a living experience of what you want to call the present. Unfortunately, that word's been so overused now that whenever you say it, it's like, what are we talking about? But in the moment as it is, not as we think it should be, not as we want it to be, not as it could be, not as a comparison to the past or the future, but as it actually is. So the last thing I'll say about the tea is just that tea and meditation have a very distinct relationship, and that they can only be experienced here and now. Even if we're just talking at the level of flavor and aroma, that can only be experienced here and now. Meditation is about cultivating a continuous experience of here and now. And so they support each other. You know, a lot of meditation practices or traditions historically have been about shutting off the senses, right? Going into a dark cave or tuning out the entire exterior world and just attending to the inner reality. But the fact of the matter is, it's the year 2021. Even though this past year we've been less in the world than we have in 100 years, we still are very engaged in the world. We have to live in the world, most of us, in order to make a livelihood. We have relationships, we have responsibilities and duties. Most of us live a very worldly life, but also most of us yearn for a deeper experience of being, and we yearn for a deeper experience of life, of the vivifying force of life, of the deeper mysteries of life. And the most profound gateway to that deeper experience of life that I've discovered is through meditation, as well as anybody else who meditates regularly. However, it's not just about turning tuning out the outside world. This is one of the great teachings of tea, that through the senses, through aroma, flavor, and exploration of tea and its forms, the different brewing methods, the different philosophical understanding of tea, that through the senses we can come into a deeper experience of the present moment. So they work together, both the inner and the outer world. We're trying to bring them closer together. We're trying to bring the mind and the body closer together. So that's all I wanted to say about all that. So let's do a meditation here for about 20 minutes. And I feel like a very good beginning place for meditation is first just to learn to observe the thoughts of the mind as they arise without trying to change them, just to be able to observe them, which is cultivating a greater witness state. The second step is to be able to follow a train of thought or a concept or an idea without distraction, to be able to stay with it, which is the development of concentration. A third step is to be able to rest in emptiness, in just an open space, so that thoughts come up on the horizon of awareness, and they recede back again. So it's to maintain a space of emptiness. I feel that these three are foundational to moving forward in meditation. So the meditation we're going to do today is connecting with the breath as a way into the body. And then we'll do a Vipassana practice, which is to observe the sensations in the body. That allows the body and mind to stop operating separately, but to work in unison. And then we'll do the last few minutes of the meditation is just observing the thoughts and trying to call back your attention as it wanders off into Never Never Land. So I would try and sit, if you're sitting on a pillow or a zafu, try to have the length of the shins actually touching the pillow. And your butt can be elevated a little bit. This creates a pyramid structure at the base that's very stable. You want stability so that you're not creating micro adjustments in your muscles that are distracting, so that if somebody came and pushed you, you'd still be quite stable. You want a stable foundation. We say sit like a mountain. You can have your hands in whatever position feels comfortable. The way I like to sit is with the left hand in the palm. The thumbs are just gently touching, and that can rest in your lap. So as you're ready, you can close your eyes and start to connect with the breath through the nostrils. Tucking the chin, feeling the back of the head, pulling upwards and back. Connecting the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth, where the teeth and the upper palate meet. Feeling the shoulders, back, and the chest and heart open. Spine straight. Taking a couple deep cleansing breaths and allowing tension to leave the body. feeling from the center of the crown of your head, a golden string pulling just gently upwards towards a star above you. Just pulling upwards, pulling the spine straight, and just drawing you upwards. Moving down through the spine, directly out the bottom of the body. Another string pulling down to the center of the earth. A couple deep breaths, just feeling the tautness of these strings. Not too tight, not too loose. Just holding the body in place. Back to the breath. Just scanning from the top of the head all the way down to the feet, any areas of tightness, tension, or contraction. Just breathing in and relaxing. You might notice you're holding your shoulders shrugged a bit. Just relaxing. Feeling the face relax. Noticing if you're holding your belly tight at all. Just breathing into it and let it relax. Becoming more porous and open. Feeling like the whole body is smiling. Open, receptive, calm. Back to the nostrils and observing sensation of air as it comes in and out. Just observing the breath as it's smooth, circular. Noticing the transition from the inhalation to the exhalation. As the mind wanders, just bring it back to the breath. From here, we're going to do some breathing. It's called the microcosmic orbit. So we inhale down, all the way down to the root chakra. And we exhale all the way up the back to the crown of the head. We're going to do a couple rounds of that. So we can start here. I'll just guide the first round and then you can do a couple on your own. So inhaling down into the heart. We'll be swallowing the throat. Open the throat. Pausing the heart. Inhaling down into the umbilicus. Pausing. Inhaling down into the pubic region. Pausing for a breath or two. Inhaling down into the root, to the perineum. Pausing, feeling your connection to the earth. And exhaling up the sacrum, to the second chakra, pausing. Exhaling up to the umbilicus, but in the back, spine, the lower part of the back, pausing. Exhaling up to the heart, feeling this area of the spine around the heart. Between the shoulder blades, pausing. Exhaling up to the back of the throat, back of the neck. Pausing. Exhaling all the way through directly through the center of the head to the center of the brain. Pausing. Just observing the sensations in each of these locations. Exhaling up to the crown of the head. Pausing. Inhaling from the crown to the area between the eyebrows. Pausing. Inhaling down to the throat. Maybe swallowing to help open the throat. Pausing. Inhaling down into the heart. And as you do this second round on your own, as you breathe in each of these locations, feeling them open and expand, letting go of any tension or tightness, feeling the heart expand. Maybe you can even sense your heartbeat if you really tune into this area in the center of the chest. Inhaling down just below the umbilicus. Feeling the rise and fall of the belly. Tuning into this area. Inhaling down into the pubic region. Sensing for vitality, energy, sensation, just observing. Inhaling all the way down to the root, the perineum. Feeling your connection to the earth. So on your own, making your way with the breath and the exhalation, all the way back up to the crown, slowly, one by one. And as you get to the crown, feeling an opening to the heavens. So doing that on your own for a few minutes, from the base up to the crown. Making your way up to the crown and then just staying there as you arrive. No rush, nowhere else to be. Feeling this area open to the heavens. Open to creativity and imagination, inspiration. Starting from the crown, to do a couple cleansing, opening breaths, inhaling all the way down the front, exhaling all the way up to the back. So, starting with a big exhalation, inhaling from the crown all the way down the center of the body, all the way down to the root. Exhaling all the way up the back, back to the crown. Feeling this circuit of energy that's being brought to life with the breath and open. Inhaling all the way down the front. Noticing each center opening as you're moving down the front. Exhaling all the way up the back. Inhaling all the way down the front. Exhaling all the way up the back. The attention in the crown. Bringing awareness to your entire body. Just witnessing your entire body. Sensations, heat or cold, tension, tightness, lightness, itching, irritation, comfort. Just being aware of your entire body at once. Feeling your existence. Feeling that the value, the true value of your existence is just the beingness. Just by existing, you are profoundly valuable. This is the essential place of awareness. Connecting again with the breath. Now feeling the breath as if the entire body is breathing, the pores opening, closing. Feeling the vitality and the energy of the breath throughout the whole body as you breathe. As you inhale, feeling the whole body expand. As you exhale, feeling the whole body contract. From the moment you were born until the moment you die. This breath, opening, expanding, contracting, Connecting with gratitude for this breath of life that sustains you. Beginning to notice that just as you are breathing the environment is breathing you. They are an interdependent whole. You are not separated even for 1 second from the environment. Without losing the sensation of your body, beginning to notice first sounds. First sounds in the room, and then sounds out of the streets, or whatever the environment is around you. Just noticing. Then beginning to expand that awareness to a larger area. If you're in a city, maybe it's the blocks around you. Or if you're in a more rural area, the trees or mountains around you, the rivers, connecting with all the animals, their birds, you can hear the birds, all the plant and animal life. All the people going about their business. All the movement. Clouds, sunshine above, the earth beneath. An infinite dance of movement. Holding your awareness on all the things happening. While maintaining awareness of your own body and your own breath. Slowly shifting your awareness from all of that movement, and all those objects, and all of those beings to the space between all of it. Space between all material, all the matter, all the beings. The space between your thoughts, the space between your breath. Just allowing for greater spaciousness. 5 deep breaths, holding awareness of all the space as well as all the matter and all the beings, as well as yourself. Just holding it in your awareness and taking 5 deep breaths. Staying with it for just a couple more breaths. With your next breath, inhaling deeply, exhaling deeply. At the end of the exhale, just dropping all of it. Taking a couple breaths just to rest in emptiness. Taking a couple more breaths and just feeling your body. You're beginning to wiggle the toes a bit. Scrunch up your face a bit. Just feeling yourself coming back into this moment, this place. And as you're ready, you can open your eyes. So that's a nice practice to create spaciousness and emptiness, um, to begin to uh, open up the relationship and the space between oneself and the world outside of oneself, and the space between all of that, and to connect more deeply from a more essential place, less from the personality and the mind, and more from embodied awareness. Um, that practice over time can begin to open up the experience throughout the day of what's happening in that moment, um, which is where all the juice is. So I hope it was a valuable practice for all of you. I hope you found something there. Um, we're going to have a calendar up in the next week or two, which will have kind of the theme of the classes for tea and also maybe the meditations. That's a little bit harder because oftentimes I'm really tuning into the experience in the moment, and it's less about being on a schedule and more about opening up to the moment. But we will have a calendar of what's happening over the coming month. So if there's a particular class that's of real interest to you, maybe it's on Shopur, or maybe it's on fermentation or green tea or whatever, you can attend that class if you want to. And the meditations I may start teaching in a sequence, because doing a deep dive into more advanced meditations, if you haven't done a lot of meditation, doesn't make a ton of sense. So I think we'll probably start to follow a sequence from some more basic into more advanced meditation practices, and we'll come back to more beginner practices every so often for people who want to start to join. So again, I hope this is something that's valuable for all of you. And also, just the practice of meditating with other people can be really quite profound. Also, we'll have meditations that are just silent sits for half an hour, maybe without any guidance. So I hope that this is a nice meditation. So it's a little hard for me to talk after I sit for a while because I'm a little bit altered. But if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to share, you are absolutely more than welcome at this time. One thing I wonder is if this is a good time for everybody, or if we should be doing it earlier in the day or later in the day. Because I want to make sure that we are doing it at a time that's accessible to folks who want to join. I also meant to mention something, which is that as we're finding ourselves starting to drink more red tea in the morning, and getting up earlier and more active earlier in the day, as you get up earlier, if you're following the seasons, by getting up earlier, trying to kind of follow the cycles of the sun, and the sun is rising earlier in the day, or earlier than that even, sometimes you might find yourself a little bit sluggish in the morning. And for that purpose, we recommend drinking red tea, or soon at some point, I'm going to do a whisked tea matcha ceremony, Japanese tea ceremony called teme. Matcha is quite strong. I usually drink it after meditation, not before. But we wanted to offer those of you who are joining us in these morning sits an opportunity to share in the teas that we're drinking. And because we're drinking more red tea, you might want to explore that. So if anybody does want to purchase red tea over the next week, there's a 15% off code. And the code is Tea Community Red. It's all in caps. And Jacob, our operations manager, is going to have that. It'll be, you can use it after this call if you'd like to. So again, that's Tea Community Red. And going forward, when we have a calendar set up, we'll be offering people through the newsletter who are in this community, who are also coming to meditations or want to explore it more. We'll share what teas we're going to drink, so that if you want to drink the same teas along with us, they'll be made available at that time, because especially in the classes on Saturday nights, I'm going to talk more about the tea itself, processing, maybe some history, the region, and going deeper into the teas themselves. So you might enjoy, if it's something that sounds nice to you, drinking the tea while we're discussing it. And we're also open to any questions anybody might have, or if somebody really wants to learn about something in particular, then of course, please email us or reach out so that we can help accommodate people's wishes. You know, the whole idea of sharing in this way is to be available to all of you and to share with you things that you want to learn more about or that you're interested in. And we will be opening up further to other people who want to share. So if somebody has a lot of experience with a different aspect of tea, we're going to open it up. Like I see my friend Jeff here writing, he's a practitioner of Chinese medicine, as I am. You know, maybe we'll have a talk one day about specifically about herbs and Chinese medicine and tea, or something as it relates specifically to the medicine. And that's really applicable to all of you. So the point is that the whole intention of this is to both share with everyone, to help build community, to hear what you want to learn about and to share it, but also to create a forum for people to come on and share what they've cultivated and what they have to offer. So all of that's in development over the next month and will be made more available. So stay tuned kind of through the newsletter, and also I'll talk more about these things in the Thursday morning and Saturday evening sits. So I think unless anybody has a particular question, then I will say thank you all for coming. I hope you gained some value and some insight and positive experience, and that you can bring some peaceful, clear energy into your day, and that you all have a wonderful Thursday. And we're planning to reopen this tea house in May. And so if you find yourself in Southern Colorado or you want to make a little pilgrimage, then please come join us here. It's a really beautiful space. We have a wonderful collection of teas, and it's a really beautiful, Telluride's an incredibly beautiful place. We're surrounded by mountains and waterfalls, and it's really, really, really a nice spot. So thank you all for coming. I hope you have a wonderful Thursday, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody.